Here's a continuation and completion of your story, keeping its tone and style while expanding on Ethan Lancaster's past, his connection to Claire Miller, and the impact of their reunion. His fingers tightened around the tablet, his grip whitening at the edges. Claire Miller, the name was a ghost from a past he had long buried, a chapter of his life he had convinced himself was closed, and yet, here she was, back in his world, stepping into the glimmering empire he had built from the ground up. Ethan exhaled slowly, his mind drifting back to a different time 15 years ago, when ambition was raw and unrefined, when success was still a distant promise, not a foregone conclusion. Back then, he and Claire had been inseparable. They had started together, two driven minds fueled by hunger and shared dreams. She had believed in him before anyone else did, long before the power, the wealth. The name Lancaster became synonymous with corporate dominance. They had built something together until he had burned it down. Phoenix Innovations. He knew the company well, knew what it had taken for her to rise from the ashes of their shared past and carve out her own empire. It had started as a small tech firm, a passion project that had been theirs. But when opportunity knocked, when Lancaster Group had the chance to expand, Ethan had made a ruthless choice. He had orchestrated a deal behind her back, leveraging her ideas, outmaneuvering her in a boardroom coup that had left her with nothing. She had disappeared after that, leaving behind nothing but silence. Until now, Ethan's jaw tightened. He turned from the glass, pacing. Why was she back? And why now, of all nights? Mr. Lancaster? His assistant's voice broke through the static in his mind. Should I prepare a private meeting with Miss Miller before the gala? He hesitated. Part of him wanted to ignore it, to act as if her name meant nothing. But he knew better. Claire Miller wouldn't have come back after all these years, just to exchange pleasantries. If she was here, it was for a reason. No, he straightened his cuffs. But make sure I know exactly where she's seated. The gala was a spectacle as always. Crystal chandeliers, a sea of black tuxedos and shimmering gowns, champagne flowing in crystal flutes. The elite of Manhattan's corporate world gathered beneath the vaulted ceilings of the Lancaster Grand Ballroom, a place designed to impress, to remind everyone who held the power. But Ethan barely saw any of it. His gaze scanned the crowd, searching for her. Then, he saw her. Claire Miller stood near the bar, speaking with an investor, her presence commanding yet effortless. She wore an emerald green dress, sleek and understated, a contrast to the ostentatious displays around her. Time had changed her, but not entirely. The sharp intelligence in her gaze, the quiet confidence in the way she held herself, it was all still there. As if sensing his stare, she turned. Their eyes met across the room, and for a moment, the years peeled away. Then, she smiled. Not the warmth he once knew, not the laughter of late-night brainstorming sessions and whispered dreams. This was something else entirely. A knowing smile, a calculated one. Ethan moved through the crowd, closing the distance between them. Claire, Ethan. She tilted her head slightly, amusement flickering in her expression. It's been a while. 15 years. His voice was measured, giving away nothing. She took a sip of her champagne, eyes never leaving his. Yes, it has. He studied her carefully. I didn't expect to see your name on the guest list. She arched a brow. I'm sure you didn't, but Phoenix Innovations has had a very good year. Enough to get an invitation. He smirked. You never needed an invitation, Claire. A soft chuckle. No, I suppose I didn't. Silence stretched between them. The air was charged, thick with things unspoken. Then, she leaned in slightly. I hear Lancaster Group has been expanding into artificial intelligence. Interesting move. Ethan's eyes narrowed. So that was it. You've been keeping tabs. Claire's smile didn't falter. Let's just say, I've been watching, closely. There it was. A quiet warning, hidden beneath polite conversation. Ethan had spent years eliminating threats before they could rise, dismantling competition before they could become real rivals. But Claire, she wasn't just competition. She was unfinished business. And now, she was back. Before he could respond, Claire placed her empty glass on the bar and stepped back. I'll see you soon, Ethan. Then she turned, disappearing into the crowd. Ethan exhaled, a slow smirk forming. The game was on.